Hello and good afternoon. My name is Scott Hess, and I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer for Armstrong Flooring. So we prepared a short presentation today to share our journey for S/4HANA. And like most people, we viewed this more as a business transformation, focusing on improving our processes, our data, and our technologies to achieve the capabilities that we're hoping to accomplish over this journey. My experience in these types of projects has really been to start well in advance of the actual implementation to try to position the project for success. And we'll share a little bit about our journey today on building the case for change, and then also working with Enowa to prepare our roadmap for how we actually execute the journey at some point in the future. So with that, I will turn it over to Ali.
Thank you, Scott. My name is Ali Saraf. I'm Managing Partner and CEO here at Enowa Consulting. Thank you, Scott, for this opportunity to present this with you, as well as for the business in general. Thanks to ASAP for hosting this. So a few words about the objectives of this session. As Scott mentioned, the focus is on setting this transformational initiative up for success. Scott will share the objectives of this. What is this? Why Armstrong is embarking on this project? We will share the process of actually preparing for this project, envisioning and defining a roadmap for this project to achieve the objectives, and some information on actual preparation activities, various projects that have been completed or are underway to get ready for the S4 implementation itself. The agenda follows essentially the same path, covers the same topics, the scope of the work that we did to assist, and as well as Armstrong's vision and the roadmap to completing this project. Just a few words about who we are. We are a full-service SAP consulting company with presence in a few different world regions, as you can see on the map. We see ourselves as a full-service consulting company. Because we cover most aspects of an implementation project and of an SAP system landscape. We of course have a few areas of special expertise and areas of core competency that are listed here for your reference, but I'm not going to read through those. That's not the subject of this session. With that, I hand it back to you, Scott.
Thanks, Ali. So I thought I'd start off with a little bit of background on Armstrong Flooring, and I won't go through all the bullet points here, but at its most basic level, we manufacture and sell resilient flooring. Resilient flooring really sits between carpet and hardwood flooring and is the fastest growing segment in the flooring industry, which is a good place to be. And we both sell in residential and commercial categories. In residential, you'll typically see our products in the big box stores like Home Depot and Lowe's. And in commercial, you'll see us in a lot of the verticals like healthcare and hospitals, education, the K through 12 buildings, and those types of verticals. So the interesting thing about Armstrong Flooring is that we've been in business for over 150 years. And during that time, we've had to evolve and transform many times to stay competitive and evolve as the marketplace evolved. And we've hit another one of those points in the last several years as well. And we're going to share a little bit about our journey to business transformation and getting to S/4HANA as part of that process. So our S4 journey started back in the 1990s with our original implementation of SAP. And like a lot of companies, we customized some areas of SAP where functionality may not have been available at the time. And we also layered in some applications over the next couple decades that either duplicated some of the functionality or made it a little bit more difficult to take advantage of the integrated capabilities that SAP provides natively. So organizationally, we've also evolved. In 2016, we spun off from Armstrong World Industries, which was a $2.5 billion company, and our resulting company was about $1.2 billion in revenue. Shortly after getting to the other side of the separation, we also in turn sold off our wood business, which left us in about a $600 million in revenue, which kept us at a much smaller company size, but still with a lot of the big company problems that we would have had as a larger organization. So part of this journey is how do we really right-size the organization from a process, a data and technology standpoint, and make ourselves a lot more efficient in how we operate. And secondly, as we've evolved our go-to-market strategy that's been in place for several decades, we're making a pivot to be a lot more customer engaging and really looking to be closer to the customer in everything we do. So the journey really takes into account all those different aspects. So the journey that we started back in 2018 and really in the summer and fall of 2019 started with the business capabilities discussion that we had within Armstrong. So the first slide on the back of this slide deck is a heat map with red, yellow, and green. And really what we tried to do is take a look at all the business capabilities that we provide at AFI and how mature those processes are, how stable the technologies are, how good the reporting is, how mature we are as an organization in those different capabilities. And it really served as a great way to set a good foundation and level set the playing field for where we were as an organization and what we were trying to accomplish, because it all starts with business capabilities. Next, we looked at our application architecture. And for us, we have 20 to 25 applications that wrap around SAP. And what was important in this is a good visual for us as we start to talk about which applications go time as we start to operationalize some of our processes from an end-to-end standpoint and really take advantage of the power of SAP as an integrated platform. Right now, we have a lot of silos because of those applications being off on their own. And by going into an integrated platform like SAP and leveraging it more than we have, we should see those walls break down between silos. Lastly, we took a look at our financial structure. So we had a firm come in, take a look at our SG&A costs, take a look at opportunities for improvement, and really helped us build the financial business case to get to the other side of this journey, as a lot of it was not just the technology applications that'll go away, but also the efficiencies we'll gain from just pure operating on a better platform and not have so many different applications, as well as the information and reporting benefits that'll come out of this process. At the same time, we had a new CEO that we hired in the fall of 2019, who brought forth a lot of experience in Armstrong from his experience in the flooring industry. And it also been around business transformation and turnarounds, which is really where we were at that point in time. So his outside in experience combined with our inside out view of the world helped us establish our new business strategy, which we launched last fall around these three pillars, which are expanding our customer reach, so getting closer to the customer in everything we do, simplify our portfolio and organization. And some of the things that we tackled as part of this process were SKU rationalization to reduce some of the SKUs that we are manufacturing and try to see some of the benefits through our warehousing and supply chain. And then lastly, strengthen capabilities, which is all about the people, the process, the technology, the data to really enable us to be a better organization going forward. So as we went through that process, the next step in the journey was to really get broad adoption and excitement around what we were trying to achieve. So on the left of this slide is one of several that we put together to really highlight some of the key benefits of this journey in a business process standpoint and how the individuals that do various transactions are going to see a benefit in their world as well as the overall organization. So that started to build a lot of excitement as people looked at the complexity that we had today and how we could start to achieve some economies of scale and start to become more efficient as an organization. The other piece that we did on the right-hand side was we gathered a group of 15 to 20 senior leaders from across the organization, so individuals that reported into the executive team, and really talked about what does modernizing AFI or what does business transformation mean. And we came up with this word cloud, which is another good illustrative example of what we're trying to accomplish through simplifying our processes, removing complexities, et cetera. And that really got some broad excitement for the team, and it really started to build the groundswell for where we were. So that's a little bit about the background. The next thing that we really needed to do and where we engaged Enowa was to help us put together that plan, take a look at the resources we would need to be successful, discuss things like greenfield or brownfield or bluefield adoption, and how we really go about putting the plan together for getting to S4. So with that, I will pass it back to Ali.
Thank you, Scott. So as you just heard, the initial focus was on preparing for the actual project. So when we started this engagement, we very early on decided that this overall transformational journey should be looked at in 3 different phases. A pre-adoption phase with preparation steps, the actual adoption phase, which is the actual implementation project, and then laying the foundation for a 3rd phase and beyond, where based on that foundation, continuous improvement projects are planned and executed, and really the capabilities of the system are enabled. Focusing on phase 1, which is the phase we're in still right now, we decided to define 4 different work streams based on the needs and based on the overall objectives. So you heard a few times that one of the objectives, or one of the key objectives, was simplification, reduction of complexity. So we defined those 2 work streams, work stream 2 and 3 in the middle, that really deal with what are some of the areas where we can already now, before starting the actual S/4HANA adoption project, work on simplifying, standardizing, consolidating the system so that it would make the actual project a little bit easier. Work stream 1 at the top deals with change management. In this phase of the project, we are already seeing change, but more importantly, being ready for that change that will certainly come in during the adoption phase itself. Work stream 1, the change management, as you can see, goes across for as long as this transformational project continues. And then there are, of course, dependent work streams. So based on the adoption strategy, the certain components of the system landscape, for example, the HCM and the BI components, will change. Will have to change, will have to be looked at a little bit differently. So we identified that work stream as focused on those critical but peripheral components. And then at the bottom, that gray bar that goes across, of course, there are always other initiatives going on in support of the business and its requirements that of course never stop, no matter how many IT projects are ongoing. Moving on to the next slide, I want to focus on a couple of artifacts from our sessions as part of phase 1, as part of the preparation phase. So this was one way of visualizing certain, let's call them red bubbles. So parts of the business process that are either highly complex or highly customized, or maybe the system usage is very, very low, so gaps in the system usage. We created these charts as part of the business scenario recommendations process with that SAP S/4HANA preparation projects include, to really visualize for the decision makers and for ourselves really where we see complexities, where we see the majority of the efforts, so that then we can plan those activities better, both in terms of resources and the change impact. So this chart, for example, is focused on the sales and service process. So the parts of the order to cash business process. You can see the large red bubbles for pricing and order management in the upper right quadrant. They're there because they're considered high in terms of usage. So the SAP system is really used, but they're also to the upper left because they will require a significant effort to be brought back to fit to standard, the way the SAP system is intended to be used. The size of the bubbles signifies the change management effort. So because they're highly customized, because they're highly complex, because they're highly used, we anticipate a significant amount of change, and we want to highlight that right now so that we know what we're up against. And we did this exercise, this is just an example, we did this exercise for all of the critical business processes and presented these results to the management. So as you can see on the sourcing and procurement, which is the second example I wanted to share here, the bubbles are much smaller, much greener, and at least on the we don't, with the exception, with some exceptions, we don't expect huge efforts in terms of change management moving forward. I want to share one other artifact from our work that was done in those early phases, which was the decision-making process towards picking the most suitable adoption option, greenfield, brownfield, and a third option here. We used to refer to it as a smart option. These days it's referred to as the selective data transition option. So we knew what the end result, what the ideal end result should look like. The future HANA system platform with the green box on the right-hand side, with largely based on best practices, simplified solutions, and agile enough so that it can be adapted to new and changing business requirements, which is not what we have today, which is depicted in the yellow box on the left-hand side, our starting point. So based on where we are and where we wanted to go, then we looked at, again, the phases of the project. So what does it take? What will be involved during the project? The left half of the chart here, and what will happen post S/4HANA adoption, the right half of the chart. Based on, not going to read all the bullet points, you have these for reference, but based on the discussions and the findings and the criteria, which I will allude to on the next slide, we learned two things. One, that the brownfield path, the bottom path, will not really get us where we need to go completely. We can get to an S/4HANA system through a migration path, through an upgrade path, essentially. No question about that. But with all the deficiencies in the existing system and what our goal is, that is not the system that we want to have for the future. So it was very clear that the top path, at least from conversations and from a general look at everything, would be the best path. And whether or not we use the selective data transition capabilities or not, that's still under consideration. That will depend on certain considerations that are yet to be made and decided in the future. But that would be a variation, essentially, of a greenfield approach. So, in order to substantiate that decision with more tangible analytics, we took the net value assessment approach, where we, and when I say we, of course, I mean the business, the IT and our team, so the collective project team, decided what the evaluation criteria should be. Those are listed here from 1 to 6, from readiness to achieving the objectives to assessing the risks and total cost of ownership. And we then assigned a weighting factor to those criteria. So you see these in the weighting factor column. So how important is each criteria considered to be by the team? You can see, for example, that achieving the strategic goals has been given a higher weighting than some of the other aspects. Based on those, we gave objective ratings to each of the criteria for each of the approaches, green or brown, and applied the weighting to them and arrived at the total value that Armstrong would basically achieve for each of those approaches, and that confirmed our conversations and our greenfield approach. It is clear that approach will give Armstrong the greatest value. I want to share one last artifact from our work and explain it. So up until the last slide was about defining the roadmap, defining the path forward, and what is important and what are the things we have to pay attention to, business areas, functional areas, lines of business. Then we started with actual tangible projects. So if the first part was defining the path forward, this was more about paving that path that we're going to continue the journey on, and we decided to do that based on the typical 10 critical success factors for SAP projects. This is a standard slide that SAP has provided and is used many times in preparations for projects, that really defines the top 10 critical success factors. So then we decided which ones can we tackle now, which ones should we work on now to get prepared versus some of the other 4 that we didn't tackle, that would be tackled actually during the project itself. But areas: setting up a good governance, having the right resources for the project available, having a good understanding and a process for change management, having an effective program management office. And as far as the solution is concerned, understanding really the data structures, the organizational structures, and the data governance aspects were things that we felt were critical and things that we can actually tackle now before even starting the project. And those projects, we call them P1 and P2, those have been recently completed. So with that, we are in a and some of the foundational projects are still ongoing, preparation projects, but with the effort up until now, we feel that we are in a really good position for when we start the actual adoption project. With that, I pass it on back to you, Scott.
So, I would just reiterate what Ali said, especially around the bubble charts. Those were great in getting really a common understanding of where the big challenge areas for us were. There's a lot of details that come out of these types of projects, but being able to have something visual that was able to be easily interpreted by the rest of the executive team and the project team, I thought was a great way to really highlight where we had a lot of customization, a lot of work to do as we make that S4 journey. So where we are right now, as Ali said, we transitioned at the end of May, early June from into the preparatory phase and started to mobilize with the anticipation of a fall start date for HANA. One of the things that we realized as an organization is we are also coming together with our go-to-market strategy. As that started to materialize, we really had a decision to make. One, do we go forward with HANA and try to connect on those business capabilities and supply chain and other areas that we really needed some immediate hit on? Or do we try to insert that and do that now and postpone the HANA project until we got some foundational projects in place? And the choice is fairly easy for us, meaning that we decided to do some of the initial foundational projects, which have had a lot of benefit, not just getting some of those capabilities for our go-to-market pivot in place, but it's also allowed us to really grow as an organization. And I think for each one of these that we do, we're able to click off some of the risk in going from where we are to a greenfield SAP implementation. So the second thing that really helped here is we've been able to build organizational capabilities. We've had a lot of new folks join our organization with a lot of process, data, technology experience, and that's just helping us get some additional leg power to be successful when we ultimately make the jump to HANA. But it also brings a lot of different perspectives, and having the time right now to focus on some smaller projects to get everybody on the same page has been really helpful. The other piece in this space is what I would call organizational learnings. So we had one project where we've been working with Enowa to roll out MRP, bills of materials, routings, et cetera, in the plants. And our first go live was a bit compromised. And part of that was we just didn't have the knowledge and skill in-house to really be successful on those kind of projects. And we've had a couple go live since that we've been able to build upon. And that's really us being ready to take ownership of those projects. And so we've been able to gain some momentum through that. We're starting to learn how to operate in end-to-end processes, what go lives are supposed to look like, how we prepare and cut over, all those different pieces. And unfortunately, sometimes that's just something you have to go through to really understand. So that has been a very positive experience for us to get some of that capability built for the organization. Number three, one of the other big things we've done is we hired somebody to help us look at our enterprise data management and really drive the data quality, the processes to manage data, all those different aspects. And she reports in to me as the CIO, although she really is a business function. But she's been great at helping us really get our arms and legs around where we are and try to be successful in getting some of our data ready to go as we make that journey to HANA and as we rationalize some of our legacy systems as part of that process. Lastly, we've been preparing the infrastructure. So we're moving from an on-prem model to a cloud-based model. So this time is being used to really build out what that infrastructure needs to look like. We're also putting in place CPI as our integration platform, and we'll be able to start rolling that out with some of our foundational projects and start to get some experience in that platform before we have to convert all the things that we're already doing through another integration platform. So we've really tried to make as much use of this time as possible. And we really believe that by doing all of these different projects, we're ultimately going to position ourselves to be very successful when we return on the HANA journey. And by then, when we hit the go button, we'll be ready to go. We'll have the team in place, and we'll be in a good shape to be successful. So that's really the path forward for us. It's been a great journey so far. I wouldn't say we're at the 50-yard line yet. We still have quite a ways to go to get to that point, but it's been a good journey. So with that, I will pass it back over to Ali for some closing comments.
Thank you, Scott, for the opportunity to present with you again today. And thank you, ASOC, for hosting this.